All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, over the past 7 days, the Brooklyn Nets have welcomed back both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant to the Barclays Center for the first time since a pair of trades last year, just prior to the NBA's trade deadline, that shocked and rocked the basketball world. And with both, Durant and Irving returning to Brooklyn as visitors, they each show the Nets that they are still elite players in the NBA. As Durant scored 33 points last Wednesday and helping the Phoenix Suns beat his former team, while Irving went for 36 points last night in a win for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, since then, the Nets have lacked the star power that they once had, as instead of having a team with championship aspirations attached to them, Brooklyn is currently on the outside looking in of the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. But a year after KD and Kyrie, after their era came to an uneventful end in Brooklyn, is this Nets franchise in a better place? And I'm going to touch on that in a moment. Now, one thing I will say about the Nets, they look like, at least for now, they have finally given up on the quick fix. We saw this more than a decade ago when the Nets, they went for broke and, they allowed themselves to be suckered by the Boston Celtics, by taking on, a washed up Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. And of course, they already had Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, and Brooke Lopez in place. And all that we got from that, from this Nets team, was one trip to the second round of the playoffs. And in the process, we saw the Nets give the Boston Celtics three first round picks, and the Celtics rather would use two of those on Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, who have become cornerstones for their franchise as they are title contenders every year. Now, you go back to the most recent time when the Nets, pushed all of their chips to the middle of the table. Started in 2019 when, they did the sign and trade with the Golden State Warriors to bring KD to Brooklyn. That summer, they also signed Kyrie Irving as a free agent. Of course, KD did not play in his first season with the Nets as he was recovering from the Achilles injury suffered in the 2019 NBA Finals. But then once KD and Kyrie got back on the court the following year, we saw the Nets go out there and make the move to pick up James Harden from the Houston Rockets. And of course, the aspirations of this team went to another stratosphere, didn't work out. The Nets got to the playoffs every year, yes, but they only got out of the first round once. You think about it. KD didn't play a game for the Nets. Kyrie was played several games for the Nets during the 2019-2020 season, and Kenny Atkinson decided to leave. And this is the same Kenny Atkinson that was a part of this Nets rebuild, had gotten a team to the playoffs prior to them bringing in Kyrie and KD, and he simply just had enough and he left. You just think about it. I mean, it didn't work out with James Harden. Um, the Nets traded him to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons. The Nets, of course, still have Ben Simmons. Big time contract, yes, big time potential, but he's never really able to stay healthy. And, again, all of these moves, all they resulted in for the Nets was one single postseason series win. Now, of course, the question is going to be, why didn't it work out for this super team in Brooklyn? For me, I think there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Also, I think there were too many egos going on as well. It was basically, you had a lot of alphas, and nobody, in my opinion, was willing to sacrifice their game for the betterment of the team. It's one of those where I don't think Kyrie ever really respected Nets head coach Steve Nash. And of course, that was a train wreck waiting to happen. And no disrespect to anybody, but Kyrie was just simply too combustible. And of course, when you're in the New York area, the media is going to take things like that and run with it which is exactly what they did. You figure the Nets left New Jersey for New York City more than a decade ago, and when they did so, they wanted to win and steal the back pages of the New York City papers from the New York Knicks. Yes, they did that. They succeeded in that, but for all of the wrong reasons. And you're fast forwarding to this year's team. The Nets, they clearly don't have any stars on this team. They have a whole bunch of guys. They have a whole bunch of second and third options on this team, but they do have some guys that are hungry. Will the Nets keep all of them, or will the Nets try to use them to trade for somebody? I'm not sure, but you got a lot of guys who are getting an opportunity to show what they can do. Mikal Bridges is getting more of an opportunity since he was part of that Kevin Durant trade, and I think he's a solid player. Of course, he's not the guy, but he's one of the guys. We've seen what we've gotten. If you're the Nets, from the likes of Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson, you already had Spencer Dinwiddie, who you got back. You knew what you had in him. But nonetheless, the Nets just have some guys that are going out there and competing. Now, it's not adding up in the wins losses column. I mean, after the 15-15 start this season, Brooklyn has dropped 15 out of their last 20. But of course, with the play-in tournament, there is an opportunity for them to still get to the postseason, even though that they're currently in 11th in the East. So you look at it, and it's one of those. What does the future hold for the Nets? And I'll tell you like this: yes, the Nets are on the outside of the playoff picture currently looking in. But one thing I'll say is this: they do have some financial flexibility going forward. You figure after the season, and it's been a disaster, since they picked up Ben Simmons because he's been unable to stay healthy. But they can get from under his contract after next season because that's the last year of his deal. Would they try to trade that expiring contract? That's a possibility. You look at the Nets right now, they're an okay team, but they're an okay and expensive team. You got Cam Johnson taken care of for several years under contract. You have Mikal Bridges taken care of for several years under contract, and they do have some financial flexibility going forward. And I think what Sean Marks is going back to doing is what he was doing when he initially came to Brooklyn with the Nets, was to build slowly, focus on the young guys and focus on developing them. And I think that's what they need to get back to. I think that's what they are getting back to. It's very hard to fly under the radar in New York City as a sports team when you're trying to develop guys. But I think that's what the Nets are able to do now. And the reason for it is because, number one, New York is still a Knicks town. New York is always going to be a Knicks town. And on top of that, with the Knicks doing so well right now, nobody's really talking about and nobody's really paying attention to the Nets. And that's good for them because now they can try to focus and try to build something over there as they're looking to come to get back into being a contender in the Eastern Conference. They still got plenty of work ahead of them, yes. But it's one of those very rare instances where you have a New York team that can fly under the radar because nothing is expected of this team. And of course, like I said before, New York is and will always be a Knicks town when it comes to basketball. But getting back to this, are the Nets in a better place since they made the trade? And honestly, I'm going to say yes, because I was one of those people that even, when you saw the headlines as far as Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to Brooklyn, I didn't think they were going to win a championship. I will say this: is Kevin Durant one of the greatest players in the NBA right now? Yes. Is Kevin Durant going to go down as one of the greatest scorers in NBA history? Absolutely. But I think when it comes to winning championships, I don't think that he was ever going to be in a better situation than what he had with the Golden State Warriors. It's one of those where I just feel that Kevin Durant is probably going to spend the rest of his basketball life and maybe a portion of his post basketball life seeking the respect that he feels that he deserves. A lot of people were not going to and still are not going to give him the respect that he feels that he deserves after, leaving an Oklahoma City team to join a Golden State Warriors team that was already a championship caliber team. And, of course, clearly in those first 2 years in Golden State, they dominated. They won two championships, the only championships that KD has gotten to this point in his career. But, it's one of those where I felt like KD just wanted to go try it someplace else, get out of that Golden State shadow, get out of that Steph Curry shadow. And he went to Brooklyn. And to me, I just feel like it was just a recipe for disaster. You're talking about Kyrie, one of the better scoring guards of this era, so quick off of the first step, so quick with his handles. But I look at it like this, it's a top heavy team that he's playing with the Dallas Mavericks right now, alongside Luka Doncic. And I don't think that Kyrie, in my opinion, is going to come any closer to winning a championship than the one that he got playing with LeBron James when they made that epic comeback to win it all back in 2016 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think these guys went on their separate ways. I do believe, from the outside looking in, I still think that Kyrie and KD are probably still good friends. But you know what? At the end of the day, it simply didn't work out. Now, if you're the Nets, like I said, you have more flexibility now with what you can and cannot do. Again, they were never going to win a championship there, in my opinion, with those stars. Now you have the opportunity to try to build something. Will they be able to build something? I'm not sure because I mean you're looking at a Nets organization, regardless of the ownership group, regardless of the GMs, regardless of coaches. They have not gotten it right since their days in the ABA, and you're talking about nearly 50 years. Since then, they have gotten the two NBA finals, of course, for 2002 and 2003 with Jason Kidd. But it's one of those where it comes down to drafting players, it comes down to developing players, it comes down to having patience with your coaches, allowing them to develop the players, allowing the players to develop. And it's something that is plagued, along with other bad decisions. This has plagued this Nets franchise for decades right now. But nonetheless, I still feel that they are in a better place going forward if they decide to stick with the plan and focus on developing their young guys. And that's the big if. On the flip side, for KD and Kyrie, like I said, it it simply just didn't work out, and I think both of them are in better places right now. It looks like Kevin Durant, is he's got a very good team that he's playing with the Phoenix Suns. You're talking about KD along with Brad Beal and Devin Booker, three of the most prolific scorers of this era. It's still going to be a tall task for them, in my opinion, to get out of the West and win the NBA championship just due to the competition in that conference. And the same thing can be said for Kyrie with the Dallas Mavericks. But nonetheless, it's one of those where for Nets fans, they're probably going to sit back and wonder what could have been. I'm sure clearly both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have moved on. They're looking to do, get to that championship level once again with their respective clubs. But still, for the Brooklyn Nets, they went big as far as their pursuit of an NBA championship, and you know what? They just fizzled out. But at the end of the day, there was never a dull moment when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant played for the Brooklyn Nets. Now that era is an afterthought. The Nets fans saw a glimpse of what could have been recently with both KD and Kyrie respectively returning to the Barclays Center. But at the end of the day, it's just a business that is the NBA. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.